I was then a commissioned officer of the United States Army, having been appointed from New York, and was on duty as a surgeon at the United States Army General Hospital, Armory Square, Washington, D.C. For a brief relief and a few moments in the fresh air, I started one evening for a short walk on Pennsylvania Avenue. There were crowds walking toward the president's residence. These I followed and arrived just at the commencement of President Lincoln's last public address to his people. From where I stood, I could distinctly hear every word he uttered, and I was profoundly impressed with his divine appearance as he stood in the rays of light which penetrated the windows of the White House.
If the people on the lawn listening to the president's speech on the night of April 11th were hoping for a speech in which Lincoln said he was going to punish and humiliate the South, they were probably disappointed. It was a policy speech. It was a speech in which he talked about Reconstruction and renewal and healing the country after a very costly war for both sides. And he spoke about the readmission of the southern states into the Union, how that would happen, how their new state constitutions would be ratified. The first state to be readmitted would probably be Louisiana. He was reserved about their constitution because it didn't provide for black suffrage. And if it were up to him, he said, he would give every intelligent black male the vote, as well as every black male who had served in the Union Army. But he stressed the importance of incremental gains. And in his trademark prairie wisdom, he declaimed, "We shall sooner have the fowl by hatching the egg than by smashing it."
After Lincoln spoke that exact same speech, a senator came out and asked foolishly to the crowd, "What should we do with our brethren?" Thinking that he would elaborate on Lincoln's message of Reconstruction and bringing the country together, and the crowd shouted, "Hang them." So it's not just Wilkes standing amongst this idea of let's reunite and hug our brother. It's Wilkes standing amongst this crowd of people shouting for the death of the South. So it's not hard to imagine him hearing Lincoln and not seeing it as an outstretched hand to the Southern brothers, but seeing it as further proof that Lincoln is the tyrant who is going to destroy the country and the place that he loved.
Alas, I have no country. 4 years ago, I would have 1,000 lives to see her remain powerful and unbroken. Oh, my friends, if the fearful scenes of the last 4 years have never been enacted, with what overflowing hearts could we bless our God and pray for his continued favor?
He apparently turned to his co-conspirator and hissed, "That means nigger citizenship. Now, by God, I'll put him through. That will be the last speech he will ever make."
John actually looked at Payne and said, "You have a revolver, shoot him. Shoot him right now." And of course, Payne refused because he thought that was crazy. But for Booth, I think that it was a real moment of realization. Here was this realization that there was the president, and here's me, and here's a gun, and suddenly I have this opportunity. The first moment where he really actively realized that it was possible within his grasp to actually assassinate the president.
Wilkes is drinking heavily. He's upset, he's depressed, but he also begins to have this idea that's been planted in his mind that Lincoln is no longer just a man to capture, but that Lincoln, and Lincoln the tyrant, as Wilkes sees him, must die.